Alright, before I start this video, I have a message for all of you PC fanboys out there that like to hate on Apple. Stop. Just stop with the excessive amount of Apple hate. Please, for the love of God, stop. Okay? No more. Not only is it getting old, but it's also upsetting to a lot of Apple fanboys out there, and pretty much most Apple fanboys out there. So all you guys are doing are upsetting Apple fanboys and making them feel bad for yourself, okay? And believe me, I have owned PCs before, and none of them are as reliable as my Macs. Same thing goes for you, Android fantards. All of you people out there like to hate on Apple, but you should stop, and you should all stop and calm the frick down. Okay? Oh, and I also don't want any comments on my video saying things like Apple sucks or things about Apple hate. Okay? Keep your bad comments to yourselves, okay? Got it? Good. Alright. So, today I'm going to talk about a subject that I've wanted to cover for a long time. Now, to be fair, I'm a huge Apple fan, okay? I own a lot of Apple products. My main computer that I use every day is this old girl, the MacBook Pro. I've had it for like 5 years and it still works. And I upload my videos on this old thing, the 2006 iMac. And I even have like a couple of Power Mac G4s that are just sitting there. The thing is that I'm a huge Apple fan, and I will collect anything that Apple has made. My main tablet that I use every day is the iPad. The best tablet ever made, in my opinion. And I even have another iPad. I also have my iPad mini that sadly has a cracked screen. Yeah, I know. I might consider getting that replaced someday. And heck, I even have a collection of iPods. Remember those things? Yeah. I bet you kids don't even know what iPods are. Makes me feel so old. But the thing is that even though I'm a huge Apple fan, it's actually pretty hard to be invested in Apple nowadays. I mean, a lot of their products, of course, haven't changed so much. They're pretty boring. Yeah. Apple, of course, needless to say, is a shadow of its former self. Yeah. Without Steve Jobs, Apple is not the same. Yeah, to quote one of the articles I've read, an Apple without Steve Jobs is like Queen without Freddie Mercury. It's just not the same at all. I mean, take a look at iTunes, okay? I have my MacBook Pro. Alright, this might require a jump cut. Look at how confusing it is. I mean, there's like, well, there's library, browse, radio. Yeah, we really need a radio in iTunes. And there's like, for you, like, isn't that like a similar feature? Basically like a similar feature for you? Like, isn't that similar to the library? I mean, just cluttered with features that we don't even need. And compare it to the old version of iTunes, which of course, because I have a 2006 iMac, I still have the old version of iTunes. So let's take a look at it and see how things have really changed. iTunes, needless to say nowadays, is probably the most confusing music player out there. Just look at it. And yet, I still use it. Now keep in mind, this is a day and age where everybody uses Spotify, but I've never used Spotify at all. Yeah, these modern things are just not for me. I don't want, like, these new modern things. I only want things I am familiar with. Things I know. Alright, let's take a look at the old version of iTunes. Now, here's a comparison of the old version of iTunes that I still have on my 2006 iMac, and I found a Primus CD and imported it on there. Yeah, I couldn't import my iTunes library to this iMac, because you need a verification code in order to sign in, and of course the old version of iTunes doesn't have a verification code. Yeah, it's just another example of Apple trying to make things more complex than necessary. I mean, come on, do you really need a verification code for sites like iTunes? It's just a site where you download and play music. Seriously. And of course, I haven't found time to get out one of my iPods and import the iTunes music library from my MacBook Pro and import it there. Alright, see how simple it is, okay? I'm gonna search Southbound Pachyderm. Oh, there's a spelling error there, sorry about that. Alright, I'm gonna search Southbound Pachyderm. See? Look. It comes up right there. And I'm not gonna play the song for copyright reasons. Yeah, if I wanted to look up a song, I'd just look it up. That's it. Like, where's the simplicity? Where's the Steve Jobs style simplicity? Come on, man. Yeah. The difference is night and day. See? See what I mean? I also have to mention that, well, FaceTime doesn't even let you record video, and that's another thing that I don't like. I mean, on iChat, you can record, like, video on your webcam, and that was awesome. Like, again, where's the Steve Jobs style simplicity? We miss Steve Jobs. And it's sad when Steve Jobs died. Yeah, and let's not forget about the iOS devices, because I have to do some explaining. Oh, and before you, any of you Android fantards say that I never own an Android phone, well, guess what? What's this? I have that's an Android phone, a Samsung Galaxy. And it's one of my only two Android devices that I have in use right now, aside from my Android box. The other one being the Android box. And I gotta admit, it's not nearly as solid as the iOS devices. Most of the iOS devices I use. Just doesn't have the same feeling to it, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Like, with the iPhone 7, they, of course, removed the headphone jack. A vital component in smartphones. I mean, come on, even my Samsung smartphone has a headphone jack. But no, they gotta take out the headphone jack, and if you want to hook up your headphones, you have to buy this thing, this dongly thing that you have to plug into the charger port, so you can't listen to music and charge your phone at the same time. Oh, man. Not to mention, like, even like, well, my iPad has like a headphone jack. See, look, headphone jack. What's going on, Apple? Oh, and by the way, the MacBooks, by the way, iOS devices are also not susceptible to removing things. Like, for instance, you know how the older MacBook Pro has, like, built-in disk drive? It's pretty cool. And has, like, ports, vital things. Even the Retina MacBook Pro, when it had the super drive removed, still had those things. Well, guess what? The MacBook Pro, the Retina one had the super drive removed, the built-in super drive, and you had to buy a separate one. Not a big problem, but the newer MacBooks, especially the MacBook Pro, had those ports removed, including the Thunderbolt port. What is it? Well, the Lightning's the thing on the iOS devices. Yeah, they had the Thunderbolt. Not only had the Thunderbolt ports removed, which have been used for a long time on Macs, aside from the and of course the basic connector of the Macs, aside from the FireWire ports, which have also been removed and replaced with the Thunderbolt. But they also took it a step further and took it too far and removed, like, the USB ports on there. Come on, man. You can't just, like, remove, like, standard components that have been, like, used for a long time by other companies. Even Dell computers still have USB ports on them. Instead, the newer MacBooks have, like, they abandoned those ports in favor for the USB-C type connectors, and of course they have to get a thing to go with them. What a ripoff! Am I right? Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to be invested in Apple nowadays. I feel bad for Apple. And I feel bad for people getting ripped off by buying MacBook Pros, finding out they don't have many ports. It's sad, really. Apple isn't what it used to be. Alright, so I gotta close the video by saying this. Even though Apple is no longer the company it once was, and they no longer make, like, cool looking computers, they just make boring looking computers. They still make computers. Yeah, Apple might no longer be the company it once was, but they still make computers. Heck, even Dell still makes computers to this very day. That's more than what can be said for some of Apple's competitors at the time. Especially BlackBerry. BlackBerry doesn't even make their own smartphones anymore. They just make Android devices. And of course, look at E-Machines. E-Machines stopped making computers in 2012. Yeah. All I gotta say is, without Steve Jobs, Apple is just not the same. And that's fact. Oh, and I also have to say this. I do own PCs. And of course, well, I also have to say that there are hardware myths, like myths about hardware failures on Macs, which aren't true at all. Because I had my 2012 MacBook Pro, and the only thing I had to replace was the hard drive. Yeah, that's the only thing I had to fix, and it was an easy fix. It was a typical problem. But I did shell out $600 though, that's a lot. But it's still an easy fix. And it still works. Now keep in mind, any computer can have a hardware problem if it's abused or if it's heavily used. I mean, PCs, of course, are prone to getting viruses and malware. Macs don't even get that many viruses or malware because there are not that many of them around. Alright, so that ends the video. See you later. And I'm going back to making Twisted Metal videos. See ya.